Hey, what's going on, everybody? And welcome back to the First Look series here, where I take a 50,000 foot slash holistic look at all 138 programs at the FBS level, give you some notable roster adjustments, as well as kind of giving you my spring record prediction going into this season as well. So, very excited to not only engrave ourselves inside the top 100, but we're getting into the top 95. So we're blowing through this series like relatively smoothly thus far, and it seems like you guys have been enjoying the series. So I really appreciate that because this is the first time that I brought it onto YouTube, and it felt like a really big undertaking doing this, but it's been a blast to be able to do all these first looks for all 138 teams, and I would appreciate the love back by hitting the like button as well as hitting the subscribe button as well, because that just helps fuel the fire, so to speak, in terms of bringing these first look previews to you guys in terms of my thoughts on them as well. So, hey, with that being said, let's go ahead and dive into it for this iteration of the First Look series. And let's get into the number 95 ranked team in the country, and that is going to be Florida Atlantic. The Owls are entering year number two of the Zach Kittley era, and they're going to be looking to improve on a 4-8 record and trying to get to a point where they can make it to at least bowl eligibility and be in that, firmly put themselves at least in that mid tier to being foreseen as an above average football program in the American Conference. So that is the goal for this year. And hypothetically, there is the pieces in place to possibly have that push to make bowl eligibility, as well as kind of be a thorn in the side for some of these other American Conference teams here in the 2026 campaign as well. Whether it is a really good wide receiver in Easton Messer coming back. He was a second team All American Conference wide receiver last year for Florida Atlantic and was a particular favorite for Caden Weidkamp, who Caden Weidkamp, while not on any all conference list, he is back as well and brings that starting experience coming into this season. But I'm honestly a little bit more excited about the defensive side of the ball. I think on the defensive side of the ball, they actually bring back more proven production, whether it's CJ Doggett Jr., the interior defensive lineman, who is a third team All American Conference defensive tackle and was a real enforcer, particularly in the run defense. And then how about Lionheart Jr., who was also named to that third team All American Conference list last fall? Is going to be your primary linebacker going into this season as well. So I'm actually a little bit more excited, particularly on the defensive side of the ball than anything for Florida Atlantic, because while they do lose out on Tyler Stotsky, who is going to transfer over to a power conference program, he joins Rich Rodriguez over with the West Virginia Mountaineers, and that's 90 tackles that you're going to have to replace. I actually thought that they did a good job and maybe even create a situation where they're going to even be better defensively because they brought Nate Fisher from San Diego, and he was a really good star for the Pioneer League last year, for the San Diego Toqueros last season. And so that will be a nice add going all the way across the country to play in Boca Raton for Zach Kittley this fall. And then how about Bo Simpson Neely transferring from Western Carolina, who was a guy that did a little bit of everything for the Catamounts defense last year. He had 50 tackles, he had 3 pass breakups as well. So, kind of a jack of all trades type of safety that Florida Atlantic is bringing into the building as well. And not to mention Kenyon Garner, who comes from a non-Division One program in Livingston, but Kenyon Garner had stats that were just absolutely eye-popping and blow off the screen, right? 28 TFLs last year and 15 sacks in one season, And I don't even think that accounts for any playoff action either. And I believe it's Division Two, but I'm not 100% sure. For those of you that are more familiar with Livingstone, you can let me know down in the comments section. But I know for sure it's not a Division One program, but I know for sure that Kenyon Garner is going to be a problem and would not be surprised at all if he provides some additional juice to the Florida Atlantic pass rush for this upcoming season. The biggest question is though, and it's going to be the really the two questions more than anything is who is going to step up in the wide receiver room outside of Ested Messer because they did lose two other contributors at the wide receiver position with Assad Wasim and then Jay Sean Platt as well, both transferring to power conference schools in Wasim going to Purdue to join Barry Odom, and then Platt joins Brett Belima at Illinois. And those two did combine for almost 1,500 yards of total offense. So, who's going to step up around Easton Messer? I think that's going to be critical because it can't just be Messer in the passing game. That simply cannot happen. Does Leonard Farrow adequately replace Jamari Sands as well? Because Jamari Sands is now no longer a part of his program too. He leaves for Florida State, and he had nearly 700 yards of total offense in his own right. Definitely think Leonard Farrow could be an interesting running back to watch out for coming in from the way of Fairmont State. He had 1,600 yards of total offense. Could absolutely be a problem for the Owls as well in the 2026 campaign. And then finally, can Caden Viscamp not only provide a fully healthy season, but can he cut down on the turnovers? Because if the turnovers were a really big issue for Caden Viscamp. He put up big numbers, but he was essentially the G6 version of what Jameis Winston was for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, if that makes any sense. That's really the first thing that I thought about. Cause man, he can put up some really big numbers. Put up the touchdowns and the yards, but man, he turns the ball over quite a bit as well, and that absolutely needs to be cut down in order for Florida Atlantic to turn some of those losses that they had last year into wins. So, with that being in mind, let's go ahead and take a little bit of a look at what Florida Atlantic's schedule is going to look like on top of what do we think FAU's record is going to be. So here is the schedule for Florida Atlantic. And listen, right off the bat, I think there's some games in here that I think they're going to struggle to win. Florida on the road. I think Florida is going to be a revamped team under John Summerall. But then you got some tough teams that you play in this conference as well. East Carolina could be a dark horse player to win this conference this year. Army, I actually think, could have a. I actually am going to go on a limb here. I think Army could be playing for this conference title game at the end of the year. I think Army is being a tad slept on, but they have a lot of returning continuity and always one of the more difficult teams to deal with offensively, and they have that continuity as well. And then same thing with Navy. You play Navy at home. They do lose a couple of NFL caliber players, but their coach is really good, and this is a program on the rise as well in the Navy midshipmen. So there are some games in here outright that I'm not sold on them winning, because I don't think that even with the defensive improvement, I don't know if Caden Viscamp I don't know if I can trust him enough to take care of the ball well enough to win those games, right? But that being said, I do think that they have a decent floor as well. I think the FIU game, I think, is a safe win. They're working through some things themselves. Louisiana Monroe is a complete afterthought in major college football. Losing that game would be actually a pretty big surprise. I'm not going to lie. Texas Southern is the FCS matchup. I mean, FAU is going to be all over Texas Southern. And then Rice. Rice is probably one of the least talented teams in this conference as well. So that's another game that I'm circling as, hey, they probably should win that one with little issue. Really, what it is going to come down to, though, in terms of whether they go to a bowl game or if they have that outside shot of going out there and possibly being competitive in this conference, or even more so going in there and being I guess a thorn in their side. It's those four games that are all toss-ups. North Texas on the road, UTSA at home, Tulsa on the road, and then USF at home. Those four games are going to determine really how FAU season goes. And if they can win at least two of those games, they're going to be a bowl eligible team. And even winning one of them is going to be progress in terms of being able to continue to get better as they ingrain themselves more into the fabric of the American Conference. But as of right now, you could see from what I have for them as a baseline record perspective, have them being a lot closer to really what the floor for this team is compared to what is the ceiling of this team. Because at the end of the day, I look at Caden Vinecamp and he is incredibly. We see the talent that he has when playing quarterback for the FAU Owls, but at the same time, I look at him and what he's able to do, and I worry about his ability to hold on and take care of the football. And because of that, I don't trust him in some of these toss up games like in North Texas on the road or UTSA, who's got a really good offense as well in the Road Runners. Tulsa is going to be improved. And then USF, I mean, Brian Hartline is a brand new coach and, is losing some of its pieces, but USF is still going to have a good football team to deal with, right? So they're not going to be a complete pushover, even with some of the losses that they took in the transfer portal. But it is a team that I think has overall improved in comparison to last year. It's just, I think at the end of the day, I think those turnover issues, I think they still continue to happen. And until proven otherwise, I think that is going to ultimately hold FAU back in the 2026 campaign. So 4-8, that is the record that they have, but certainly a room for them to be much better than that. Be 8-4 and be finishing in the top half of this conference at the end of the day. But I am curious to hear what your guys' thoughts are on FAU football. If I'm a little bit too harsh or if I actually should be a little bit higher on Florida Atlantic, definitely let me know in the comments section. Always love to hear your guys' thoughts. As for the other teams that I've previously broken down, but something that I think would really help a brother out too is I would really appreciate if you hit that like button and hit that subscribe button as well if you do happen to be brand new. Because what that does is that it helps grow this channel and it shows that the work that's being done to not only talk about all these teams and put their notes together and making all the graphics, it really shows the work is paying off. So I would genuinely appreciate that. It only takes a moment or two to actually go about doing that. So would really appreciate that. But for now, this is Jacob College Football Red Zone signing off. Hoping you guys are all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.